I'm here at Radio Days Europe with Nazri, who specialises and works in and is from
Malaysia.
Nazri, tell me about your role and what you do within the radio world.
Okay, so I'm the CEO of Prima Audio. We have 5 radio stations in Malaysia that operates in 3 different languages.
Oh, wow.
There's of course the local language, which is we call Bahasa Malay. And then there's English, and then there's also Chinese. So I look after the operations. It's been 3 years now. We have rebranded the radio stations to meet the demands of the future. Not calling it radio as in radio network, but Prima Audio, because that's where it sits, and that's where we are going into for the future. Yeah.
It sounds like you're much more advanced than sort of what the UK.
Yeah, in theory, but in terms of technology, we're still behind. But it's just that we're trying to find innovation of how to meet the future demands.
I get that. So are you familiar? Do you know the UK or do you know the European market that well, or not really?
I heard about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big fan of BBC Radio.
Okay.
When I was there for a while, I was listening to it and how it has evolved.
Okay.
I've been attending, this is probably my second Radio Days Europe.
Okay.
I'm involved with the Radio Days committee.
Okay.
We co-organized Radio Days Asia last year.
Okay.
Met with some people that's coming from all over the world. And this year again, we're going to do it in KL in September.
Yeah,
That's
which we're going to talk
hometown.
about, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, as someone that's so experienced as you and has so much credibility within the radio world. What are you guys doing that we aren't? And that's the truth, is that you're so advanced in comparison to kind of where we are, even in terms of your headspace and your thinking. Why do you think that is?
Okay, so the thing is, because I would like to think Malaysia, even to compare just to Asian countries or Southeast Asian countries, so we have the closer neighbors like Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines. What you can say is that although we have different language and different dialects, but Malaysia, we have different culture differences and also languages.
Okay.
So we speak in 3 different languages, obviously, but our main language is of course Malay. But then we have second language English. But then we have also Chinese and Tamil, which is Indian, right? So we can broadcast in these 3 different languages according to the target demo. But if you go to countries like Singapore, they'll be speaking in English, maybe a little bit in Malay. But then in Indonesia, it's fully in Indonesian. You have different types of format. And then you have Thailand, same Thai language. Philippines, Filipino. So, I mean, I guess that's where our creativity comes from, because of that diverse presentation that we have, right?
Well, you're reflecting the community that you're broadcasting to, right? Because we've spoken a lot about diversity, and actually you're just reflecting the people that you represent, right?
Exactly. So we have to be hyper-local and really serving the community, and that's what matters. And because of that, and there's different differences with our population and our community, and we are able to challenge each other and find the norm, because the digital space for us is really big, because everyone's on social, right? Our generation really is the first thing that they do. They grab onto a smartphone or even tablets and all that. And even in schools now, they encourage kids to learn from tablets.
Totally.
Right? So I think that's everywhere all over the world. But it's the consumption that is very high, right? Maybe you have heard about this, especially in our part of the world, is that we have netizens that is very, vocal in terms of certain things.
Okay.
For example, there's a lot of boycotts going on due to what's happening in Palestine and Israel, right? So huge boycotts with the products supporting Israel, and what they are doing is really getting their voices heard. And that is really driven by the social media. And that's really important. And that's like, this is where we have to be really, acknowledge the fact that it's a growing community on that part. But because radio, traditional media is regulated, how do we balance that?
Of course.
Right? So that's where we come into play in both platforms. So radio has to be on the social media platforms. We have to be aggressive on it. Probably putting out content that is not necessarily on air.
Okay.
Minus the music, obviously.
Okay.
That's the main
interesting
thing,
that you say that.
Right? Yeah. And then the other part is that everyone's talking about AI. And this is something that from last year, when everyone's talking about AI, we actually did it. We didn't even talk about it. We actually did it.
That's the difference.
That's
you guys
the difference.
Just do stuff that we're almost scared to even think about or talk about. You just do it.
Yeah. So my experience is when I shared my knowledge with our neighboring countries, programmers and radio networks, is that Malaysia has the most, self-regulated country because they are concerned about these 3 R's: royalty, race, and religion. Anything you touch on that, you'll be banned or your license be revoked.
Okay.
Right? And we'll be very careful with that. And because of that, it's really tied to what we could do, because it's hard. We can't even talk about sex openly on radio.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's a lot of, regulation around it. But we managed to tweak around that area to be more creative on how to innovate those kind of content, to put it out there on air and also on social. And this is very important, especially the new generation, which I see in the Western countries and also Europe. They have also this problem where the young generation, they don't tune in to radio. So where do they go? So we have to go into where they are.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Right? So this is also very important. So like for us, what I see and what I get out of all this sharing session is that the young generation, what happens is you have to kind of like for our market, and because it's so filtered, that you can't do a lot of things on traditional media, that they run to social media because they can listen to the songs that they like, that not necessarily our radio station can play because it's regulated, it's banned, or because it represents something, or even the lyrics.
Totally.
Right? So digital, literally you can play anything and talk about anything because it's not regulated yet.
Yeah, which is why you have to pivot to be able to do the content on air, let it translate to digital, and then try and find the synergy between the two, right?
Yeah, so that's a great thing to have. And then that's why we have that. But also for me as the CEO of the company, we also have to be acknowledging the fact that the new generation, the young generation, the graduates from universities, they will have a lot of ideas, and we encourage them to come and join us.
Yeah.
And we open it up to them.
Be a part of it.
Be a part of it.
That's what you guys are doing so well, is reflecting the community that you are broadcasting to by even letting them be a part of this incredible thing, which I don't think everyone gets right?
Yes,
So I'm Gen Z, so I'm 24, and sometimes I feel as though there's a kind of, we want you to observe and not to be in, when I'm consuming station. You touched on AI.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. You guys aren't afraid of AI. I am. I definitely am.
Yeah,
but you're not.
When we first launched it on our English radio station called Fly FM, we called her Aina Sabrina.
She's got a name. I like
AI.
that it's a her.
It's a her. It's a
sorry.
Aina.
It took me a long time for the, it took me a long time.
Yeah. So the great thing about this is it came up from an idea with two mentor of mine. They just was challenging each other, and they said, okay, say one guy represented a company that is of releasing of product and beverages around the world, like Pepsi and Calpis from Japan and all that. So they said they want to do something that is new and advanced for the younger generation. So products have that problem as well, attracting young generation as much as traditional media like radio and TV, right?
Totally.
So what happens was, it was just an idea, what can we do with AI? And I said, okay, it was just an idea. Imagine we had an AI and actually come to life and had its own personality that carries both. It can speak on radio to become that radio DJ and train to be one. And it represents the product that we're selling. So in this case, it was a cultured drink from Japan called Calpis.
Yeah.
Of course, it has its product name, but also the color that represents the drink and all that. So we put 2 and 2 together. What are you targeting? The mass Malay, Muslim, but modern.
Okay.
At the same time, but female.
Okay.
So the buying power for us in the country, Malaysia, is female owns the biggest buying power. They've got the money. They'll spend.
Yeah.
So you have to portray that. So then we came up with it. We designed. We use I don't keep secrets, so we use Midjourney and 11 Labs to create the voice and also the features, and put it together and train the voice, and use one of our staff to actually put the voice in and try to tweak it and see if we can get the voice that we want, that's so original. But she can speak English well, but can converse a little bit in Malay, our native language, but also can talk about anything that's coming up from Japan, because the drink is coming from Japan. So when we put that together, it was a success story because everyone was talking about it. But on the trade level, yes, it was a success story because suddenly it's like, wow, an AI DJ, that actually comes to life.
This is huge, right?
It's huge.
Yeah.
But for the audience, when we released it, everyone was like, no, we're going to cancel you. You know, you're going to take our jobs away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there was a bit of
people
that.
People resistant to it.
And we kind of expected that at first. So we said, okay, let's see what happens.
Okay.
So from time to time and see what happens.
Yeah.
But after a month, actually they can accept it. Even though they said it was a cancel culture, our following and our engagement went up higher.
Well, because
before.
because it's like the whole bad press thing,
Yeah.
isn't it? You know, like I can see it in your eyes. You're like, yeah, we sort of wanted to do that, and we
Yeah,
achieved what we
yeah.
wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, look, I mean, in summary of AI, then basically we need to stop resisting it and accept that it's
No.
coming and lean into it.
It is.
And make noise. So
You
you're
have
so
to.
comfortable with that, whereas I feel like everyone else is wide-eyed, like, who knows what the future is. You know, I opened Spotify the other day and I had an AI DJ. I didn't like it, but maybe that's because I just don't want it to take over the world, you know?
Yeah, of course. But you cannot do it 100%.
Yeah.
You got to do it piece by piece just to be
Slowly.
a part of it.
Yeah.
Right? But let's be honest here. When I started that AI DJ and we put together our heads together and all that, it actually took more than 2 or 3 people
Yeah.
to put it together. I
a
actually
lot.
had to had more headcounts to actually make it work.
Yeah. So it's a big
But
investment.
It is a big
Yeah.
investment. But afterwards, when you actually get it going, when you have trained it, you just need that one person to actually get it going.
And
you
then-
need a prompter. You do need a prompter no matter what. No matter what you do with the AI, you need to have an HI. HI is human intelligence. That's us.
See, it's so fascinating because you've obviously studied and explored it so much. It's almost like, like it's like your own language. Like you know, whereas for us, I feel like we're very much still in the stages of, should we be doing this? Which is, credit to you guys in Asia. Like I said at the start, you're so much more advanced than the rest of us, which is why it's so exciting
Wow,
that Radio Days Asia, we're in
Asia.
Europe right now. See, my brain's gone. It's coming in September.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that, right? Because actually, the advance and the technology of what you guys do in terms of the radio landscape, very different to us. Do you think it will be different to Europe?
In some ways, creativity-wise, it might be different because it really is focusing on that market
Yeah.
and what it needs. The
Yeah.
culture, the religion, and all that is different.
Yeah, of course.
If you were at Radio Days Asia last year, we talk about a lot on AI, and I think a lot of conferences are actually adapting on AI and what can it do and what's the future and what can the future bring. But last year when we did Radio Days Asia, India is already doing AI podcasters. So those podcasters are doing actually are AI podcasters, and they are talking about drama podcasting,
Yeah.
telling stories. And they're already doing that. And it's very successful.
We just have to accept it because even when
have
you
to.
said it, I went, and then I thought, why am I sighing? Like, this is the evolution. Like, we have to, we need to lean into this. Otherwise, it's going to take over before
It is.
it's too. You guys are there.
Yeah, I mean, at first, even my board of directors and all that, they said, okay, what is this going to do? Even they are afraid, right? But we have to look at this. Okay, we always look at cost savings, maybe to be more efficient. But if you are getting AI to be a part of your system, of your workforce, you are getting more people to actually do more things, to implement or to get more things done for your company. So you have to think about, okay, maybe you don't do this anymore. Maybe you don't do script writing or copywriting
you
or
need
voiceovers.
to switch.
Switch, do something else and get that productivity
Yeah,
to
of
level up your company or your work.
Totally. Final question. Anyone that's listening, watching, consuming, maybe a bit afraid of AI, but know they need to start getting their head around it, start implementing it, what advice do you have to give?
Don't be afraid of AI. Use AI to really support what you're doing and really improve your efficiencies, because that's what AI is really to make yourself efficient, not just for your personal use, for company-wide use, even in the future for your own personal family use as well.
Totally.
So you don't have to do things that you can probably spend more time with your own life, your own family, or your own kids, right? I think that's where it's going. But if you're afraid of it, if you're afraid for it to take over our world, then this is where the human intelligence needs to step up and control it. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. Human intelligence needs to have that control. What you want to do with it is all up to you. Don't leave it independent and run the world. I can't do that. Because at the end of the day, it will run out of batteries.
Good. I'm glad we established that it will eventually run out of batteries
Run out of
and we're all
batteries.
safe.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time
No,
today. Thank you.
so much. Thank you for this. This is great.